The Trump rioter, known in the media as the Q-Anon Shaman, has been sentenced to 41 months in prison. And we're going to talk about the sentence. We're going to talk about consequences in general, the way that these court cases are going, and really what the philosophy or approach should be in terms of sentencing for these individuals. Now, to step back for a second and kind of set the stage, there are hundreds of alleged Trump rioters whose cases are pending right now. And we're starting to see sentences that are very mild, ranging all the way up to several years. Now, when we talk about consequences for the Trump riots, one side of that are the consequences for individuals that participated, people like the QAnon shaman, Jacob Chansley, and others. And we're going to talk about that in a moment. There's a whole other side to consequences, which is consequences for those that instigated it, those that created the environment in which half of the Republican Party or more believed that the election was actually won by Donald Trump and that Joe Biden stole it in some way. And thus it was in some way justified to go to Washington, D.C. on January 6th and do what they did. There have been no consequences for those people whatsoever. And that includes the former President Donald Trump himself. It includes people around Donald Trump. It includes members of the House of Representatives. It includes members of the Senate. It's a very, very long list. And when we talk about consequences for them, really, we're probably talking about political consequences. I don't think there's any chance, nor arguably even a legal basis for charges against someone like, I don't know, to pick someone, Madison Cawthorn. I don't know. The people that were going around fomenting and instigating. There's a question as to whether there will be political consequences for some of those people. The answer is also probably not, because most of them are in very red districts, safe districts. The people in the Senate, many aren't even up for re-election in 2022. So that's one side. That's not going particularly well. Now, to the sentences and to the news of today. We are starting to see sentences stack up for some of these rioters. I think it was the Monday bonus show, we talked about roughly the same amount of time, about 40 months for one of the other rioters. One of the most prominent rioters is this guy, Jacob Chansley, known as the QAnon Shaman. He has now been sentenced to 41 months. The man known as Q-Anon Shaman, who stormed the Senate chamber on January 6th, adorned in face paint and wearing a fur helmet with horns, was sentenced to 41 months behind bars on Wednesday. 34-year-old Jacob Chansley from Phoenix, Arizona, pleaded guilty in September to one felony count of obstruction for his role in trying to block the counting of the 2020 Electoral College votes. He faced up to 20 years in prison on the charge. Federal prosecutors themselves had only asked for 51 months. That was the longest requested sentence so far in the Trump riots. U.S. District Judge Royce Lamberth handed down a 41-month sentence and also 3 years probation once released. In sentencing Chansley, Lamberth said he thought Chansley was, quote, genuine in your remorse, but the severity of the crime warrants the sentence. What you did here was horrific, as you can now see. QAnon Shaman, of course, as we're showing you here, is this guy whose shirtless picture wearing the horn fur hat and the flag and the megaphone and the whole thing. Images of this guy went viral very, very quickly. Videos showed him inside and outside the Capitol building, yelling at police officers, leading a mob, eventually getting into the Senate chamber, where he scrawled, "It's only a matter of time. Justice is coming," on paper covering the desk where Mike Pence had been presiding minutes earlier. He was in court yesterday with a beard, a green prison jumpsuit, addressed the court, referenced Jesus, Gandhi, and the movie Shawshank Redemption, expressed remorse, and said he would do everything differently. "I was wrong for entering the Capitol. I have no excuse. The behavior is indefensible." Now, Chansley asked for a time served, meaning he gets credit for the time he's already spent behind bars, saying he's not dangerous, he's not violent, he's not an insurrectionist or a domestic terrorist, and he's nothing like the other people he has been incarcerated with. So what's the takeaway here, right? First of all, there are people who are annoyed at only 41 months. A few things to note. First of all, the prosecutors only asked for 51 months. So oftentimes we see could be 20 years. When prosecutors say, given the circumstances, we're only asking for 51 months, it's rare, not unheard of, but rare, that judges sentence people to more than prosecution asks for. Number two, he did take a guilty plea and he did show remorse. Now, we could say the remorse isn't genuine. The judge felt that it was, but it is one of these situations where if he were, the earlier sentences are increasingly people who are taking pleas. It would be reasonable to think that those who are going to push not guilty, maybe go to trial, etc., if they are found guilty, we could see even longer sentences. Trials take longer than pleas, all else being equal. So we won't know about those sentences for a period of time. Also, I got a couple emails from people saying, why wasn't this guy charged with treason? That is very, very difficult. And typically prosecutors are not going to do that unless they are very confident in the evidence, and state of mind is a factor there. Same with something like sedition. So that's just really tough. It's not surprising that the QAnon shaman was not charged with treason. Now, the Fox News perspective on this, at least the perspective of Fox News contributor Will Cain, is that the QAnon shaman was brainwashed, I guess, by the left while he was in custody.
Insidious part, Tucker, he was submitted to, and he did submit to some type of brainwashing. I mean, they have made all of these January 6th defendants essentially repent from any beliefs they ever had and echo critical race theory ideas, read the right books, and tell a judge they apologize for everyone and everything they've ever been. It's really gross, and it's a violation of due process, and it's just a violation of our sense of justice.
Now, I don't know if the references to Gandhi or whatever were part of that. I'm not really sure. But that's what we might call an alternative perspective. And that's actually something that's being repeated a lot by the right, which is these alleged insurrectionists are not only being treated unfairly, some of them, by being kept detained in pretrial detention. They're not allowed out on bail, or they can't afford it. They're also being brainwashed as the cases against them are going forward. Okay. So overall, the prison sentences are getting longer and longer. In the last week, we saw the two longest prison sentences of above 40 months. The lesser charges for the Trump rioters are kind of being moved out of the way first. And I expect that some of these are going to get longer and longer over time. One thing that is curious is, why aren't Trump supporters angry that the rioters are sort of being left out to dry? They did the thing that they believed Trump wanted them to do. They showed up. They tried to interfere with the count. They tried to prevent Joe Biden from becoming president. They did the thing that Trump thought was right. Remember, Trump in the video on January 6th said, it's time to go home, but I get why you're here. Makes sense that you're here. You're doing a beautiful thing. We love you, I believe he said. But now they're just kind of being left out to dry. Why aren't they all furious with Trump about that? I don't know. Just a question.
One of our sponsors is Blinkist, who's been supporting the David Pakman Show longer than any other sponsor. Blinkist is the app that lets you listen to or read an entire nonfiction book in just 15 minutes. Blinkist is the way to absorb those books you can't make time for. Blinkist takes top nonfiction titles, pulls out the book's key takeaways and insights, and gives it to you in the form of a text or audio explainer that you can consume in 15 minutes. With Blinkist, now you actually do have time to learn about all the things you've been wanting to tackle. On the Blinkist app, I just listened to This Is Your Mind on Plants by the great Michael Pollan. Super interesting, the history of caffeine and so many other things. Blinkist has you covered on podcasts too. Blinkist takes long episodes of popular podcasts and distills them into audio you can listen to in 15 minutes. With Blinkist, you can become knowledgeable about so many different things. You can have conversations with people about more topics. Blinkist makes you more well-rounded. Try Blinkist for free and get 25% off a subscription. Go to Blinkist.com/Pakman. The link is down below.